So let us look at what we term as food security. Okay, all of us need to eat food that is nutritious for us to be healthy. But the question is, sometimes people don't have access to these nutritious foods, and that therefore means that their health is actually impacted. So, under what situations can we say that someone is having the proper access to the foods that they actually need to have optimal health? And that is where the term food security comes in. So we want to define this term, and we'll definitely know from the definition that we shall have that we need to be careful in defining it, because there are some aspects that we have to look for in the definition for food security. We'll break down that definition and understand it thoroughly well, and then we'll definitely look at the causes of food insecurity, the consequences, and then later on we'll look at what needs to be done. But before we do that, we look at a scenario here. So we are having a district Y, and this district has recently experienced unpredictable rain, pest outbreaks, and also decline in soil fertility. As a result, many families are actually not having sufficient food, and they have resorted to consuming only a meal a day. A local organization is trying to understand this problem. So they conduct a study to and investigate the factors at play, and they find out that actually, despite this district having large chunks of land, the community depends on a single crop, and that is maize. So the district health officer reports rising cases of protein energy malnutrition among children under 5. So this is what typically you could find in some places that are experiencing issues to do with unpredictable rain patterns, because most people actually rely on rain to grow crops, and also yet the practices that we can term as sustainable practices could actually can allow them, if well implemented, to also have water conservation mechanisms where they can actually irrigate these crops such that they don't only have to depend on rain. And as such, indeed, coupled with the pest outbreaks, it is likely that the crop yields will definitely reduce, coupled with the decrease in fertility. Okay, so reduced agricultural output is resulting into food shortages in this district, and as a result, the children who are vulnerable actually becoming malnourished, and they are being taken to the health facilities to be treated for protein energy malnutrition. So the questions that we have, can we define what food security is? Using the scenario that we have there, can you explain the 3 ecological or biological factors contributing to food insecurity in this district? Why? And then can you suggest the 3 sustainable biological strategies that can improve food security in such a community? And then lastly, can you discuss the health implications of long-term food insecurity, particularly among children? So let's look at these presentations and see if we can be able to answer the questions that have been asked here. Food security is defined as a situation in which all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. And this definition is very important for you to basically understand it, because there are key terms that you basically need to make sure that every time you're defining this term, you need to include them. One is an issue to do with access. That access can be physical. The meaning of that is that, yes, it is possible that the food is there, but the food is far and you can't get it. Or the food is there, but that food is not socially acceptable. That is the social aspect. And then the food is there, but you don't have the money to buy it. So those are the three elements of access that have to be there in your definition. The other aspect is all people at all times, everyone. So we don't need to leave anyone behind. Everyone at all time should have access to food that is sufficient in terms of amount, that is safe, it doesn't cause diseases, and nutritious to meet their nutritional needs. Okay, and they should and also the aspect of food preferences, that okay, the food can be there, but is that food what is preferred by the people in the community or something like that? And then that food should be able to keep them active and healthy. Okay, so that is the definition for food security. So anything less than that, it is an issue to do with food insecurity, as we shall see later on. The four things that should come into your mind when discussing food security: that the food is available. Okay, and the food is available in the market or in the garden or wherever it can be stored. That food is basically available. And then access: can people get it? And here we look at whether the people have the financial resources to get that food, where that food is obtained, okay, in terms of physical distance from where the food is, and things like that. And then we move to utilization, that the food is used in a proper way to promote health of individuals. Okay, and then the third one is that the first three, that is access, availability, and utilization, all these components are always there over time. Okay, that means that the food is available, the food is accessible, and the food is being utilized well. Why do we emphasize these things? Because the things actually move hand in hand. If the food is available, it means that it can be accessible. But again, that accessibility can also be influenced by economic ability. By financial ability, because it's possible that you can have food being sold, but the people who are of low income status may not be able to buy it. Okay, and then also food may be available, but it is far away. It's beyond people's reach. Okay, or because there are no mechanism to transport this food to the people that need it. Okay, and if the food is available and can be accessed by people, then that means that people are going to basically have nutritious meals, and that is basically utilization. So that means that they're eating well, and therefore they're going to be healthy and benefit from the food. So that's why understanding those components is quite very important. If there is no access to food, there are individuals who are going to be affected very fast. And these are the ones we call the vulnerable groups: the children, the pregnant women, the elderly, and then women. Okay? And starting with the children, if they're not having adequate nutritious foods, that means that they're not going to grow well. So they're going to be stunted. Okay. Secondly, is that they are going to become very small. That is wasting. Okay. And then the other thing is that, of course, they will get diseases. Okay. And sometimes we're talking about chronic diseases. Okay. At school, their performance will actually be low because their brain will not develop quite well because they lack some of these important nutrients. Okay. Those that get some diseases can easily die. So the number of deaths will actually increase. Okay. And especially among the vulnerable populations. And then generally, people will not be working and the country will not actually be developing. Generally, the productivity of individuals will reduce, and as a result, it is very hard to see the country developing because of the low productivity. And because people are falling sick often, that also means that the government will have to spend a lot of money on treating them. Okay, so we'll have high healthcare costs. Okay, so generally, poor nutrition impacts on the economy. You will spend more in hospital, and then you are not working, and then if you're not working, you're not earning an income, and then also if you're not working, your productivity goes down. Some of the consequences can include some of the other consequences can include migration, conflict, and civil unrest. Governments, a government can be overthrown because of lack of food. Okay, when the cost of stable foods goes higher, it can create civil unrest. People will demonstrate and they will overthrow the government. That's possible. Okay, and the example can be Sudan, where the price of bread actually contributed. The increase in the price of bread contributed to the downfall of the government. Climate change is one of the factors that contribute to food insecurity. Climate change is characterized by extreme weather events, for example, floods happening, excessive rain, and things like that. Also, this climate can actually influence the distribution of pests and the emergence of actually new pests. This which can actually also destroy crops. Some of the farmers grow only one single crop, and as a result, there is a loss of fertility, and consequently, if you have outbreak of, let us say, diseases or pests, these monoculture farms can actually be wiped out. They are actually vulnerable. And practicing unsustainable farming practices can result into soil degradation. Okay, loss of nutrients, erosion. All this can contribute to low yields. Okay, and then the number of people who the population is actually growing at a rapid rate, and this limits food resources. And then if you don't have pollinators, you cannot have yields because productivity is associated with the extent to which we are having pollination happening. Okay, so if people are at war, they cannot engage in farming. That contributes to food insecurity again. And then also inflation contributes to food insecurity, or economic instability contributes to food insecurity. So what do we need to do? What we basically need to do is to invest more in agriculture, and especially carrying out what we can term as sustainable agricultural practices. Avoid monoculture, do what we term as community seed banks. If you have plant species or crop species that are declining, we might need to have seed banks to store some of those seeds. And then avoid monoculture, so practice crop rotation, where you change the crops that you're growing. This season, if you grow monocots, the other season you can grow dicots. And then apply organic farming, especially use organic manure instead of synthetic manure that can easily cause pollution. And then do research such that you can use drought resistant crops. And don't only rely on rain. You can practice irrigation and also harvest water. Plant trees. Agroforestry is very important in contributing to proper soil management. Okay, and then modern techniques such as aquaponics and hydroponics can actually be used. Okay, like we said earlier on, if we have an issue to do with food insecurity, you have a lot of consequences, both health consequences and also economic consequences and even social consequences. And here we are only focusing on the health or biological consequences of food insecurity. We already said that the children or and other vulnerable groups will face malnutrition, and already in this district, why we have noted that actually the number of children that are having protein energy malnutrition has actually increased. So food insecurity is also associated with the deficiency of micronutrients, and then also people especially children, are susceptible to infections, especially if they are malnourished. They will not be able to perform very well in school because of poor cognitive development. And then lastly, the death rate of children and even mothers, okay, will actually increase. We have known that food security is when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to meet their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. And then the second question, we have talked about issues to do with climatic conditions contributing to food insecurity. And then we have also talked about soil matters. Okay, the soil losing fertility because of unsustainable agricultural activities. And then we have also noted issues to do with pests and diseases. So those are some ecological or biological factors that contribute to food insecurity. And then the part, part C of the question, strategies, uh, irrigate irrigate crops, practice uh, crop rotation, use organic manure, and grow a variety of crops. Do research and understand what crops are actually resistant. If people are food insecure, that actually affects children. They will not perform very well in school. They will not grow. They will get stunted, have stunted growth. You will have poor cognitive development. The later on, when they grow up in life, they will be less productive, and that contributes to negatively contributing to